Welcome back to another episode of the All Takes No Whiffs podcast. On this episode, we've got a guest. We've got one of our first guests on. We've got Josh Salmon. Really excited to have you on.
Oh, man,
nice
it's
to
a
meet you
pleasure
as
of mine.
well.
Yeah, this is awesome.
So before we really get into it, is there anything you want to tell us about yourself?
Well, obviously a Padre fan, so it feels sympathy for me up until this week. So 35 years of suffering. So let's see what else. I've been a baseball broadcaster for TV and radio for many years, a sports writer. I've also done photography of baseball and other sports, and that's my full-time job. So I know everything that there is media related wise, pretty much about baseball.
Gotcha. And so you told us before you've been around baseball your whole life, used to be a player and pursued it outside of the field. That's really good to hear. That's something that we're really interested in as well.
Well, and I knew that I wasn't ever going to be a player. I mean, that's what I wanted to be. Every kid wanted to be a baseball player when they're a kid. But I started realizing about the second or third year I played, I don't have it. So I better find another way to do it. And I really didn't get into sports broadcasting until many years later. But I've always had an interest in baseball and followed it very, very closely at mostly the major league level, a little bit more now into college and that kind of thing. Into broadcasting actually is I used to take my GI Joes when I was like 13 and I made them play baseball. I made a cardboard field and I made them play baseball, and I did all the play-by-play, and then I did the post-game interviews with myself basically of all the players who won and that kind of thing. So I actually still have those on tape. It's pretty funny because my voice hadn't quite cracked yet. I was like 12, 13.
That's pretty awesome though. I mean, you seemed like you wanted to do some broadcasting since you were young.
Yeah, and actually newspaper is what I wanted to do out of high school. I did the high school yearbook. I was a sports photographer and writer for the high school yearbook, and didn't have the grades to get into university. And so the only thing they offered locally was broadcasting. I was like, I'll try it. If it sucks, I'll do something else. And well, here I am 20 years later, still doing that and newspaper. So I do both now.
There we go. It's a good thing that you're doing what you love all these years later, because not a lot of people can really do that, because some people are forced into situations that they've got to just, do what they can. It's not often you can do something with your passion.
Oh, very lucky. Yeah, I've been doing, there's a summer college league here that it's a wood bat league, and they have kids from all over the country come and they don't get paid. They just stay with host families and they play baseball and they work on stuff to get themselves into better colleges and more playing time and stuff. And so I got to broadcast their games on TV and radio the last 3 years. And I'm like, I'm getting paid to talk about baseball and watch baseball. I mean, how much better can it get?
Exactly.
In an air-conditioned booth too, by the way.
No, that's even better. Trust me. I know how that is sometimes.
We rough it.
Now that we've got you introduced, just wanted to get into a couple things baseball. First off, I want to ask you, what's your opinion on the San Diego Padres now that you guys acquired Juan Soto and Josh Bell?
Well, I was happy to see the Soto trade. I really was. But before it went, I was thinking, well, okay, yeah, we need Soto. Yes, we need hitting, because it was one of the 15th in the league in hitting or something. It was horrible for where we should be at. Without Tatis, it's a huge loss. But I also thought, well, there's a lot of other needs. We need another arm. We need a catcher. We need a couple bats. Well, guess what? They got a couple bats. They got a couple big bats. They didn't really get the catcher. They got a backup with Cam Gallagher. But they traded our closer, which Taylor Rogers, nothing against him, but Hader's the man. And he pretty much hit on everything. Yes, he cleaned out most of the farm system, but, he took his chips, and Preller's like, we're all in. And I think this is the time to do it. We're 2 weeks out from Tatis coming back right around there. You have Tatis, Machado, Soto, Bell, all in the same lineup. And then that pitching staff, I think we're pretty good shape.
Yeah, as a team, I definitely don't want to see him in the playoffs being a Braves fan.
Yeah, and there's nothing I ever thought I'd ever say that about San Diego. I mean, I went through so many bad seasons growing up since I was 10 years old as a Padre fan. Yeah, I grew up in San Diego, so that's how I became a Padre fan. And so I went to watch them in person a lot, and it was pretty much Tony Gwynn and a bunch of other guys. That's pretty much what it was for like 15 years.
Fernando Tatis coming up like a couple of years ago, that must have been a nice fresh of breath air.
Well,
breath of fresh air. Sorry about that.
Either way, it's good. You got Tatis, right? So they traded James Shields, which, I mean, so White Sox still have to be waking up every morning going, stupid. What are we doing? I mean, James Shields wasn't even at his prime at the point. He'd already been pitching a few years, and yeah, he was decent. He wasn't great, But at that point, they're like, okay, we're going to trade this Tatis kid. I mean, his dad was a major leaguer. What's he know, And we get him for a song and a dance and James Shields. And it's like, thanks a lot, dude. Yeah, they weren't thinking on that one, the White Sox. We appreciate it.
No, White Sox have made some questionable trades over the past few years, to be honest.
Yeah, you're right. But I look back at Padres history too. Years ago in the 80s, early 80s, they traded Ozzie Smith, because Ozzie Smith came up with a Padre. I have his rookie card in the other room. And, they traded him. Oh, he's not going to do anything. We'll trade him for Gary Templeton. And then, Dave Winfield started off as a Padre in the Hall of Fame as a Padre, but he only played there a couple years, and then he went on to other things. And so, there's a couple there, but you look back at, Trey Turner was a Padre, and we traded him a few years ago, and then look at, he's a stud. So, I mean, there's every team makes their organizational oops, and the White Sox just had a big one that time.
Yeah, for sure. Now that you guys do have Juan Soto on your team, though, what's your thoughts on like the future when it comes to paying these guys? Because you already got Tatis and Machado locked up, and obviously it'd be nice to have Juan Soto long term, but he's demanding a lot of money.
Well, yeah, it is going to be a lot of money. They just re-signed Joe Musgrove, who honestly I think took a lot less money than he could get anywhere else, but he's from San Diego, and he wants to stay there, and he's happy. And honestly, he's been our best consistent pitcher all year long. And so I said, I'll be, to that guy. I think there's going to be more revenue generated in the next couple of years with Soto. Ticket sales, ticket sales have been really good in San Diego anyways. But with merchandise and stuff like that, I think the money will come in to where they can maybe offer him. And maybe if they offer him just a little bit more than Nationals, maybe he didn't take the Nationals offer because it wasn't just about money. He wanted to win. And if he sees, if we can win a championship with him in the next couple of years, well, then he might be like, hey, I'll take that amount, but I'll stay here. A, it's San Diego. It doesn't snow here. B, we're on a team that can win some games. So he might take that kind of money or just a little bit more. And I think San Diego will be able to come up with it by that time. Now that Hosmer will be off the books by then, and Will Myers will be off after this year.
Understandable. So it's good that there's hopeful expectations for the future. As for this current season, what do you see the Padres doing now that, like you said, they're getting Tatis back, Soto? I personally see them having a comfortable position in the wild card, either one or two.
Yeah, and they're not going to be able to win the West. Dodgers are too big a lead, and there's too many one-run games that Padres lost in the first half that you look back and shake your head, but that's the way it is. So, and the Dodgers aren't going to just, randomly lose 12 games in a row. That doesn't happen. It's not 1987, 1986, 1987 they went to the World Series. But anyways, so yeah, you're going to have to win the wild card, but they're going to have to, stay healthy. That's going to be a big thing. Stay healthy. They've got Pomeranz coming back out of the bullpen. If he can be back to his form, there's your setup guy for Hader. And that 1-2 punch will be really good in the back of the bullpen. I'm not worried about the starters. Yeah, everybody has a bad start every once in a while, but Clevenger's been good since coming back from surgery, and you've got Yu Darvish, Manaea, then you have Snell, and of course Musgrove. So I think you're good there. Those guys can give you deep innings, and they've been rotating pretty much a 6-man rotation. So you've got Nick Martinez as well. So give those guys a break. A lot of times that's what happens is these guys pitch every 4 days, and then by the end of the season they're just dead. And so I like the Padres doing the longer rotation this year. I've always thought Major League Baseball season should be about 150 games and then start the playoffs because pitchers and players and everybody, and they're just dead by the end of the year.
Yeah, I've never been opposed to shortening the season. Like I'm not like big on calling out that we should, but I do think that'd be helpful for players and honestly just the front offices themselves too.
Yeah, I remember a case of San Diego. What was it, a few years ago, 2006 or something like 7. Anyways, they were really good. They were leading up until like the last 3 weeks of the season, and then the pitchers were just exhausted, and they were done, and that was it. They didn't have any pitching, and they, went down their leg, you could say, and that was it. But then that's happened to other teams. It happens to a lot of teams. That's just a lot of wear and tear on a guy, 162 games. And so if you made it to 150, start your playoffs, the season be over. Then you don't have to worry about winter conditions too, because you're going to be playing some of these games, in October, November even. And it's like, well, it's getting to be winter in a lot of places. So it's another advantage to that.
Yeah, so you talked about how y'all's rotation and bullpen are looking pretty good. So how do you think y'all would construct your lineup?
It's interesting. Until Tatis comes back, we really don't have that leadoff hitter. It's been a it's been a trial by committee. You've tried Cronenworth there. They've tried everybody but Machado basically there. And it's Grisham is okay up there. He's not a good hitter, but he's fast. And so I still like Profar leading off. Profar's having a really good year. And so I'd say leave him there. I'd say put, Soto at 2 and then put, Machado at 3, Bell at 4. Go right after these guys, and then it goes, from there you can go on wherever. Cronenworth in the top 6 somewhere. I think he hits usually better 6th or 7th, but you can put, your catcher in there. You've got Grisham, you've got Will Myers as a DH. So that'd probably be my top 4. And then when Tatis comes back, then you'll have to adjust that. Maybe move Profar down to 2 or 3. I still think Tatis is a good leadoff hitter. And it's amazing to me how the leadoff hitters evolved over the years. The leadoff hitter used to be Ricky Henderson, the fast guy who get on base and steal bases. Now the leadoff hitter is one of your best hitters because you want him, A, to have more at-bats in the leadoff spot, and B, it's, it doesn't have to be the fastest guy. You see guys that are power hitters that are, slow as a rhinoceros, but they're leading off because they can get on base. And so it's evolved the leadoff role, and it could be really anybody. Bob Melvin uses a lot of different lineups. I like Profar there right now until Tatis comes back.
Yeah, no, I feel that. And something else that's also changing, like with the prototypical leadoff hitter, the 2 guy too. A lot of teams nowadays, they're hitting their best guy at the 2 hole. That used to be usually the 3 hole, maybe even the 4 hole at times. But yeah, now the 2 hole, you got the Yankees. We consistently hit Aaron Judge there. And man, he's not a prototypical 2 hole hitter from what I remember with baseball.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Back in the day, the cleanup hitter, you had one of your best contact guys batting 3. So in our case, it'd be like Tony Gwynn, and then we had like Jack Clark or somebody like that hitting 4th, because that was your power guy. And McGuire, was 4th. Canseco was 3rd, would bat 3, that kind of thing. And yeah, that's what it used to be. You used to have your best hitter because he saw the best pitches right before the cleanup guy who was a power hitter. Well, that's all gone out the window. Now number 2, because I think most of that is because they want to have more bats. If they're at the top of the order, they want to have more bats, get the on-base percentage up, make opportunities for these other guys. And so I think that's the big reason. But yeah, that's a good point. Your first and second places in the lineup don't really mean much anymore as they used to be. I mean, those are your 2 of your most important hitters are 1, 2, and like 1, 2, and 4 now.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, you probably know this as a Yankees fan, but you know why Babe Ruth is number 3, right? Because that's where he batted in the batting order. And yeah,
it was really that simple back then.
Yeah, the uniform number was issued based on how they batted in the batting order. So it's kind of crazy.
Funny thing about the Yankees is that a lot of new Yankees players and just current players right now, they're wearing funny numbers because a lot of them are just taken up already.
Oh, they have so many retired numbers. It's crazy. And that's what I would do. I mean, my softball number was always 72. I'm like, find me another 72. Nobody's going to be 72. That was Carlton Fisk's number back in the day. That was a couple other guys. Tony Phillips has 72, but I don't remember any other major leaguers with 72. So yeah, I like Judge doing the 99 thing. And most of those guys start with higher numbers anyways in the minor leagues. And then I remember Tony Gwynn was 52 or 53
That's
in the minors. And then he came up to 19. So kind of crazy.
Judge also would look weird in any other number, I feel like, because he's so big.
Yeah, he's got such broad shoulders and huge back anyways. He needs 2 digits and then 2 9 digits. He's tall. It's a tall number. It makes sense. It's a perfect fit.
Yeah, so you went ahead and mentioned a little earlier things with the game changing. Got into that a little. Something that we've kind of discussed a little before we got on right here. The shift. I know that you're not a big fan of the shift in baseball. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, and it's going away next year. That's part of the new bargaining agreement. So this will be the last year you see the shift. I've never been a big fan of the shift. I understand the guy, hits the ball a certain way, but I mean, for Major League Baseball hitters, if I was a hitter in Major League Baseball and everybody shifts me to the right side because I usually pulled, I'd drop a bunt down third baseline every single time until they start playing me that way, because it's a for sure hit. I mean, you're a Major League hitter. You should be able to hit it, the opposite way at least once or twice, and then they realize, hey. And then you look at the scoring. So, like, let's say we'll just talk about the Padres for now, because a lot of times they'll bring everybody over. So you have like 2 second basemen, your shortstop's playing right up in front of the bag, and then your first baseman. So if the ball's hit to Manny Machado, who's playing over between the shortstop and the second baseman, they rule that ground out to second base. Well, it's not. It's ground out to the second base position. Or no, they ruled that ground out to third base. I'm sorry, because he's the third baseman, but he didn't. That's ground out to second base. If Jake Cronenworth was standing there, it would still be a ground the ball to second base. So the way they're scoring it is screwing up the sabermetrics anyways, because, you look at this guy, he hits the ball to third base a lot. No, he doesn't. He pulls it to second base where the third baseman is standing, Yeah. So I never understood the scoring on that. I'm like, that should still be a ground ball to second base, whether you have 5 guys there or just 1. And so I don't like, but yeah, just drop the ball down and hit it the opposite way. I don't understand why that's so hard for Major League players.
Yeah, and you actually brought up a good point that I never even thought about, messing up the sabermetrics at all. I didn't even think about that, because all the analytics and stuff, I mean, that just screws it up, and because they're not actually hitting it to third base. So
Right.
I never even thought about it that way. That's a really good point, actually.
Yeah, it drives me crazy. You know, as a baseball announcer, broadcaster, I look at that and I'm like, no, that's still a ground out to second base. I don't care if it's the first baseman playing over there. I don't care if it's the center fielder playing there. It's still a ground ball to second base. It's where the ball went, not the guy who picked it up. You know, that's what you put on your scorecard. So that part bothers me.
Yeah, when it comes to the shift, I've never really been too bothered by it, except I feel like as of more recently, maybe like 2, 3 seasons ago, when it got really extreme, like I've seen the Padres do it, putting Manny Machado out in like right field.
Yeah.
When you got a certain guy coming up, at that point, I'm just like, all right, we got to chill. At that point, either ban the shift, which they decided to do, or make it more of like a territorial thing. Like if the shortstop wants to play as close to the base as possible, he can within 1 inch of like second base itself. He can't go past that. I would be cool with that, but yeah, they a lot of teams have overdone it, and I'm really glad to see the change, to be honest.
Go back to the old softball style. Have a rover, you know, just have one guy out there who can play in the outfield. You know, I remember playing softball as a kid. And you had 4 outfielders. You had a rover. They could play in the infield. They could play in the outfield, just depending on who was hitting. I mean, if you're going to do a shift, you might as well just have a rover. Have one guy. That's his job, is to rover around, you know, infield, outfield. And I mean, that's how ridiculous it is to me. Just have this guy. That's his job. Position rover, you know, put him down.
Yeah. And to be honest, I see what you're saying with that. I remember doing that in Little League myself.
I'm a little older than you guys, but
yeah,
softball, they did it. Yeah, baseball, they never did it, but softball, they used to do it when I was a kid.
Yeah, when I was like, I think this was my 8-year-old season. I was in left field, and I look over like 15 feet away. There's a left center fielder. That's such a weird thought looking back.
Yeah, you're like, hey, I got this over here. I'm good.
Like,
you will get anything on that side is yours. I'll take everything over here. You know.
But yeah, so like I was saying with the shift, I would say overall I'm glad that they're getting rid of it. It's either you got to get real specific with it or just don't deal with it at all. And I'm glad they're going with that.
Well, yeah, if you know a guy pulls the ball, then just, you know, move your second baseman over, have your first baseman not hold on to the runner or something like that. Have your right fielder move in. I mean, you know he's going to pull it that way. So have those 3 guys aware. It's just like when you're a kid, you know, hey, last time he hit it to you, you know, at your position. And so it's the same kind of thing. Instead of opening a huge gap on the opposite side, and tell me they can't just slap it that way. I mean, they're a Major League Baseball player. Just bunt it every single time until they start putting a guy over there. And I don't understand why that's so hard, but it is. But yeah, it's shift will be gone next year. So, and I think didn't Tampa Bay kind of start that shift thing? I don't know where it actually originated.
I'm sure they did. They're the most analytical team that I know of, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and then everybody else, you know, when this came, I was like, oh, this isn't going to catch on. And everybody's doing it. And you see it at different levels, too. I think they banned it last year in the minor leagues, I'm pretty sure.
You don't even you see it. I work a lot of college baseball games down at UGA, and they don't even do it that much down there. So it's like, why even do it there?
Yeah,
it doesn't even work half the time, really.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, you just leave that big gap on the other side and the scoring. And so it's just, I'll be glad to see that gone. I'm not a big fan of the National League DH, but I see where it makes it a lot easier to make a lineup, especially now that teams like the Padres have all these extra hitters. You have a place to put them. I'm pretty old school with the, you know, let the pitcher hit because the strategy of the game, but I understand why they did it.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I personally, I feel like it's good to. Some pitchers they shouldn't be standing in that box, to be honest, for their own sake, because
yeah, I can't think of any now that swing a good bat except for like Zach Greinke or somebody like that. But
Mad Bum,
Max Fried.
Oh, does he? Okay,
he's got a good.
Yeah, he had a walk-off hit last year.
Well, Maddox was one of the best hitters I ever saw as a pitcher. Greg Maddox, he was unbelievable. That guy batted like 270 every year. I mean, it's crazy. Oral Hershiser was one back in the day. You know, he was a good hitting pitcher. There hasn't been many, but yeah, I understand the DH thing now.
So now that we got like the trade deadline out of the way, kind of looking forward a little bit to like future moves, maybe next season's trade deadline or like free agency. I want to hear your thoughts on the Angels situation, to be honest, because I know that's pretty relevant in baseball right now. What do you think's up with, you know, Shohei Ohtani's tenure there and what's to come in the future?
Well, and I grew up kind of an Angels fan too. In Southern California, you had the Angels on TV on KTLA all the time, and it was free. And so I watched a lot of Angels, a lot of Cubs and WGN, and then I'd go to Padre games. So those were my 3 teams growing up in Southern California, just because that was what was on TV. And in the local team. So I've always kind of followed the Angels a little bit. But yeah, well, first of all, they started off years ago with these horrible contracts, like the Albert Pujols, the 15 years or whatever they did for him. I mean, you knew that guy was going to be, he should have retired 3 years ago. I love Albert Pujols. He's a guaranteed Hall of Famer, first ballot, but he should have retired like 3 or 4 years ago.
Favorite player of all time, and I 100% agree.
He's unbelievable, but he's kind of making a mockery of himself. And Cabrera's the same way, Miguel Cabrera. But anyways, he should have retired years, and so nobody should sign these huge contracts. And I don't think Padres should do that either with Tatis. But he's a younger age than Pujols was, so they have these huge contracts, and basically right there, you're just telling the world, I don't care about the rest of the team. I'm going to give this guy and Trout a bunch of money, and then we'll just fill it in with a bunch of other dudes because there's no money left to pay anybody else. They picked up Anthony Rendon at third base, but I mean, who else? You have no other money. So now they almost have to move him to make, to buy some players that would make them actually halfway decent.
Well, and also their farm system is one of the worst in all of baseball too. So trading one of those two guys, Trout or Shohei, probably would bring back a haul of prospects that would probably put them, I would probably say, in the top 15 at least in farm systems.
Oh yeah, I mean, you've got to do, look at the Dodgers farm system. Padres had a good one here a couple years ago. Dodgers have probably the strongest farm system. I know the Yankees have a good farm system. So I mean, things like that. You take those good players and you trade them, and like Washington just did. They got some pretty good guys from San Diego, some top-ranked guys that could really help them out. And so you're rebuilding your farm system. The Royals did that for many years, and they won the championship, completely depleted their farm system, and haven't really been good since. They won the championship, and then I think the next year they were second to last or something, and then been almost near the bottom. And I love the Royals too, but same kind of thing. They went all in and they got their championship, and then they haven't been good since. So it's tough sometimes to rebuild a team when you have nothing to build on. And they've got two guys that are superstars that could bring a truckload of profits and prospects to them to rebuild that system to make themselves good in 3-4 years.
I know I brought up the Angels. I want to bring it back to your team real quick because of a point you just made. The prospects that you guys gave up in that Juan Soto trade, are there any that before like the trade talks that were really going on that you were high on it was like kind of sad to see them go?
Well, Robert Hassel III has always been pretty high touted. He's only been in the minor leagues a year or two, and he's already hitting very successfully at A-ball right now. And so that was one I figured that people would be asking for because he's our best prospect right now. And that's part of it. I mean, you have to let him go. CJ Abrams has had a taste. He had a cup of coffee at the major league level. His defense has been pretty good. He's really fast, but he hasn't hit anything. So, I mean, that's another one. Capuano, our catcher, I'm surprised he really didn't go anywhere. He's been one of our better prospects over the last couple of years too. We still have him in AAA right now. And so the thing you got to remember too about prospects is, say if a team gets 5 prospects, you're probably going to get about 3 that are, going to have good careers, and the other 2, some of you never heard of. And that's been almost every trade in history in those big trades. If you get 3 guys, then, probably 2 of them be good and 1 won't. So that's what you have to remember. So you're going to give up some guys. So if you give up, the lower end prospects as you can to the other team, then, chances are you're not going to make them as good as they want to be, but you're still making them better. So Hassel was a tough one, but I understand where they came from. Mackenzie Gore, he was so high touted for all these years, and they kept him in the minors and kept him in the minors and kept him in the minors, and brought him up this year, and he's had pretty good success. I thought they should have brought him up last year. I thought he was ready, but they don't ask me. So bring him up this year, and he pitched pretty well as a starter. Had a couple rough outings, brought him out of the bullpen. He didn't really have success, hurt his arm, but I think he's a good pitcher overall, and I think Washington got a good one there.
Yeah, definitely. I was pretty big on Mackenzie Gore, former left-handed pitcher myself. I definitely see his stuff. He's got some great stuff, and it's just I'm interested to see how his career pans out elsewhere now. I thought he could have been a solid piece for you guys, but it makes sense because we talked about it earlier. Pretty deep rotation for you guys. He was expendable at that point.
Well, yeah, and last year we would have needed him. We didn't have Sean Manaea last year. Clevenger was hurt, so we needed him up, and they didn't bring him up. You had other guys, the Nelson Lamet, who was really good back in the day. What was it, 4 years ago? He was runner-up or in the top 4 for Cy Young. So, and that was one of the guys we shipped off to, can't remember, Twins, I think. Anyways, Brewers, that's right, yeah. So, and if he comes back to form, he'll be real good too. But Mackenzie Gore, I thought maybe should have been brought up last year. Got more of a taste of experience, but then maybe they wouldn't have gotten Sean Manaea or something. So who knows?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. It's not easy, especially when there's the potential that a lot of these prospects have, but you got to trade it for the sure thing, of course. And I was willing for the Yankees to do something like letting go of Jason Dominguez. I'm huge on Jason Dominguez. I think he's going to be up next for the Yankees. Long-time player, as long
Right.
as he wasn't part of any trade packages, and he wasn't. We got to keep him while picking up Frankie and a couple other pieces. And while I would have preferred us getting Soto,
I think everyone
I'll
would.
take Dominguez in the future.
Yeah, why not? And I think back to San Diego trade history, and there's been some doozies, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, but one that really stands out in my mind was in the 90s when they picked up Trevor Hoffman. Trevor Hoffman came up in college as a shortstop, went through the Reds organization. They converted him into a pitcher. He got to the major league level with the Florida Marlins. Padres traded Gary Sheffield and one other guy to the Marlins for, Trevor Hoffman. And keep in mind, Sheffield almost won the Triple Crown at San Diego. I remember that year. I talked to him on the phone. I was like 12. And I called, and they did a call-in thing on a radio show. I could barely understand what he was saying. But anyways, he won the batting title, but he almost won the Triple Crown that year. And so then I think this was a year or two later, they traded him to the Marlins for this, Trevor Hoffman, who's saved a couple games for Florida. This guy ain't going to do anything. And then he's the second all-time in saves. And so that was a trade that worked out really good for both teams because Gary Sheffield still had a lot of gas in the tank. I still buy baseball cards. I'm old school.
Oh yeah, I'm into
I love
baseball cards.
I'm into
I've got
baseball
thousands.
cards.
Yeah, over 250 Tony Gwynn, just Tony Gwynn.
Oh wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, and they're making new ones now because baseball cards weren't selling so good, so they're bringing back the old guys, the McGuires and the Gwynns and those guys, and remaking cards. So I look at this one, I'm like, wait a minute, Gwynn passed away like 5-6 years ago, and they're still making baseball cards. He hasn't played in 20 years, so. Wait a minute. So now there's more cards I have to buy. So just when I thought I was getting towards the end of having almost every single card that they made, they're making new ones. So here we go again.
Yeah, I'm excited to potentially add a Padre Soto baseball card to my collection because I've got like 4 different Juan Soto cards, and now he's not even a national anymore. I don't know what value. Well, they still hold some value.
No,
but
they'll have value.
Well, and think about the Nationals fans. Bryce Harper, he goes to the Phillies. And then a couple of years later, you got this phenom, Juan Soto, and now he's gone, and I understand it's a business move, but if you're a Nationals fan, you're pissed. I mean, you're like, I'm tired of this stuff. Come on.
I mean, they just got rid of everyone, though. Trey Turner, Max Scherzer, Kyle Schwarber. I mean, they cleared everything out the past few years.
Yeah, and just a couple of years after they went to the World Series, it's kind of like the Florida Marlins did in '97. They won the World Series and then just eliminated everybody and haven't been good since. So I wish the best of luck to the Nationals, but thanks a lot. We'll take them.
I kind of feel bad for Steven Strasburg, to be honest with you. He's just
he can't stay healthy anymore, though.
Nope. Yeah. San Diego State guy, and Tony Gwynn was his coach, but he just can't. He can't stay healthy. He could have been really, really big, but he just can't stay healthy.
Yeah, it sucks that maybe he didn't reach what he was expected to, but I think he still had relatively good success in his career for what he's had to go through.
Well, and it's kind of funny too. You look at guys, based on their draft, and what was Mike Piazza? He was drafted in like the 47th round or something, and just because his dad knew Tommy Lasorda, they were friends. Mike Piazza was a first baseman, and in college, Tommy Lasorda met him and said, "Hey, if you're ever he says, learn how to play catcher right now. Learn how to play catcher." So he grabbed the catcher's mitt, went out and learned how to play catcher because he'd never get drafted as a first baseman. There was a million power hitting first baseman, but he got power hitting catcher. Oh, that made him more appealing. So then, the Dodgers just kind of took him on a whim, saying, okay, I know this kid's dad sort of like, I want him, they get him. Look at Mike Piazza, took off huge, They don't even have that round as a draft anymore. So, I mean, there's guys that were drafted, way in the draft. That's funny. One of the best stories I ever heard was Rex Hudler. I'm not sure if you remember Rex Hudler, but he's one of the commentators. Hilarious. One of the nicest guys you'll meet. Anyways, he got drafted above Cal Ripken by the Yankees. The Yankees took him over Cal Ripken that year in the draft, and the Orioles got the second pick. And even now, Rex Hudler goes, what were you doing? What were you thinking? Taking me over Cal Ripken. It's hilarious. He says that all the time.
And Christian, you probably don't like that. Cal Ripken not going to the Yankees.
I mean,
I don't know if you knew that, but yeah, they picked Rex Hudler first, and then so then the Orioles had second pick, and they got Ripken.
It sucks, but it's like, as a Yankees fan, it's like, can I really ask for more?
Yeah, it'd be different if it affected the franchise and they ever won again, But no, they had the Red Sox thing going on or something, but they've won plenty without him. So
Mm. I know. The Yankees have a reputation. I know a lot of people that aren't Yankees fans feel a certain way. What's your thoughts on them this season? Because I know they've surprised surpassed my expectations through and through. I know they've had a
Yeah.
couple down stretches, but even then,
So yeah, Yankees basically. I mean, I like Aaron Boone as the manager. I always thought he was a good commentator. I thought he was a good player. He understands the game. He comes from a long history of his brother was a good player. His dad was a good player, and so he knows the game of baseball. He understands. He's got he can put up with the Steinbrenners and what they want to do, and Cashman and what they want to do. It takes patience to do that. Obviously, I know the boys Steinbrenners aren't probably as bad as George was, but still, they've built a good team and they've made some trades when they got Giancarlo Stanton a couple years ago. They got rid of the catcher Gary Sanchez over this, which that's a good move. I mean, Sanchez never lived up to the hype. They got rid of him, to the Twins over the summer, and so I think they made some moves there to shore up some things. What they did, the trade deadline was really good. They went out and got Montas. They've got they shored up center field there with was it Bader they got, and so that's a huge move as well. Yes, he's not the best hitting, but his defense is crazy good, and that'll save you a lot of runs in the end.
And getting Judge out of center field, that's something that they need to do because he can't do that for an extended period of time.
Yeah, he did good there, but that's not his natural position. He's a right or left fielder,
And I think this is not like one of the biggest moves that they made, but a much needed move for both sides. Us trading Joey Gallo to the Dodgers, I thought that was huge. I know the Dodgers isn't exactly like a step down when it comes to pressure, but a new environment could be good for Gallo, and it just didn't work out in New York at all.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good for both guys, and that's what happens to a lot of guys. Padres tried out Luke Voit, and and we tried him for a little bit, and when he hit the ball, he hit a ton, but he strikes out a million times. Luke Voit is either strikeout or home run. That's all he ever hit. So we shipped him on to Washington, but it's the same kind of thing for Joey Gallo. A lot of times, guys will not do very good in the setting, whatever that is, and then you ship him out to another place, and he does really good. Or you get the opposite. Sometimes, like the Padres last year, got Adam Frazier from the Pirates, and Adam Frazier was batting like 325. I'm like, this guy's gonna win the batting title. This is awesome. Comes to us, doesn't do anything. He goes for like his first 20 or something, and then I think he ended up batting 230 or something for the season, 245. I mean, he didn't do anything for San Diego that was relevant, but he was hitting so good with Pittsburgh. So for him, it was the opposite effect. I think Gallo will do good in Dodger Stadium, around that environment, around that lineup. That's a lot of times too. Like that's what Soto didn't have. I mean, that's why Soto is so amazing, because you really didn't have much besides Josh Bell in the lineup. So now that he's got these other guys around him, he's going to see more pitches. He's going to hit a ton. Petco Park is big, but so yeah, Gallo, I think just a different environment will make him a better player.
Yeah, I think just the Joey Gallo to New York, it just wasn't going to work out from the beginning. I don't even know why y'all traded for him in the first place. I mean, even I remember talking to you about it before the trade even happened. We both are like, it just isn't a good fit.
I haven't been a fan of Joey Gallo since he was in Texas, to be honest. Not that nothing with his character. I think he's a great dude and all that. It's just like his style of play, that 3 outcome thing with baseball that's been happening. I think he epitomizes that more than anybody else. And I don't, as we can really see what happened in his tenure with the Yankees, I don't think it pans out well.
Yeah, it's funny how guys do that. I mean, like Ryan Sandberg started with the Phillies and didn't work out there, and he shipped them on to the Cubs, went to the Hall of Fame. Jeff Bagwell started with the Red Sox, didn't really need them, didn't work and wasn't hitting good, went on to the Houston Astros. So I know we're not talking about a rookie guy, but sometimes a different setting is better. It could be the environment around him, could be the lineup around him, could just be a deep breath of fresh air. And the guy goes, all right, this is my chance. Here's take 2. Let's do this. And, it helps out a lot of guys. I think it helps out more guys than it hurts more guys, in my opinion. So it's better for the players as well.
I got you. Yeah, man. No, it's been really fun talking baseball with you. I was surprised when you came in with the Padres hat. I didn't know what team that you were a fan of, and I was like, "Oh, this is perfect timing."
Yeah, I live in the Midwest, and so I was shooting a state basketball tournament 2 years ago, and the security guard comes over to me, and I'm like, "What am I doing wrong? What am I?" And he's like, "No, man, I'm a Padre fan." I'm like, "Really? Okay, so there's 2 of us in the state." I've actually met about 6 or 7 guys who are Padre fans coming out of the woodwork now that we're good. But anyways, yeah, so it's fun to be a Padre fan this week. In fact, I get texts. Even when Tony Gwynn died, people text me like I knew the guy. I never met him, but
yeah,
because I'm the only Padre fan they know in the Midwest. So it's kind of funny. I have a Padre room in my house right now. The entire room is Padre. It's been that way for years.
So we're gonna go ahead and start wrapping this up. But before that, I wanted to ask you one more thing regarding just the Padres and just second half of the season in the playoffs. How do you as objective as we can all be, because like I know I'm a Yankees fan. I got to keep it objective. How do you picture the Padres in the playoff picture? Do you think they can make a deep run this season? And if with or without the Padres, how do you see the playoff picture really unfolding?
I do think that they, especially now that they have Soto, with Tatis coming back, I mean, the lineup has done nothing but Machado. I mean, Machado, surprised he hasn't had back injuries this year because he's carrying that offense,
Yeah.
Really. That's the way it's been. And so you don't realize how much Tatis is a big part of that until he's gone for a long period of time. By the way, no more motorcycle riding. Anyways, but when he comes back, that was going to make a huge difference nonetheless, but you still needed another bat. And now Soto, you've got that. If everybody can stay healthy, pitching staff and the players, this is going to be a really, really good team to reckon with. Now, don't rule out the Mets. They're there. You've got your Bravos are doing well. The Phillies did a little bit. They went out and got some guys. I don't know if they have enough to compete in the playoffs. They might get there. So it could be an interesting race. Right now, the West, though, the National League West is basically two teams. So, never rule out the Cardinals either, but I just think it'd be interesting in that way. The American League could be a little more interesting. The Central Division in American League is it's pretty much the Twins. That's the White Sox. I'm really surprised they're as bad as they are, and if they don't make the playoffs, I think La Russa's gone. I like La Russa as a manager, but they should be a lot better than they are. I mean, starting the year, I look at the White Sox and I go, those guys are making the World Series right now. I mean, just the acquisitions they made and the team that they have, they should be a lot farther along than they are in the American League. Astros are the ones surprising me. I mean, I think I can name like 6 guys on that team, maybe 5. I mean, Correa's gone. You have center fielder. I can't think of his name now. He went to the Blue Jays.
George Springer.
He's gone. I mean, Verlander came back. He's like 206, but he still pitches really good. Greinke's not out there, and he's not pitching great anyways. But I mean, and Dusty Baker's a big part of that. Love Dusty Baker. And I just think the Astros are a team to reckon with right now. They went out and got a couple bats, so that could be a really interesting team as well.
And don't sleep on Jeremy Pena. That's going to be a key factor to that team for a while.
Yep. And
no bias.
If they get the is it Vasquez, the left-handed, I can't think of his name, the left-handed outfielder guy that.
Yordan Alvarez.
Yordan. Yeah, Alvarez. Yeah, they get him. Brantley's still coming back. He's a little ways out yet. Michael Brantley, if he can get back to form that he was last year, these guys are really, really good.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm hopeful for my Yankees, but I can see it. The Astros have their number straight up. And in a series matchup, that's not going to work out well, even if it's just the regular season right now. And they've had our number for a few years now, so I have hope for the Yankees, but I can really see it playing out just like it has.
I kind of questioned the Montgomery move when they got rid of Montgomery the other day. I didn't quite get that one. I mean, I know they got Montas. Montgomery's been a pretty good pitcher for the Yankees. I didn't quite get that.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying, and I know it's a little different. Montgomery being there for a while, and then, for example, like Mackenzie Gore he got called up this year, but I sort of see it as the same thing. Like we have good depth with our pitching rotation, so somebody was a little expendable, and unfortunately, it was Montgomery.
Yeah, and Chapman really hasn't done much in the back end of the bullpen, but it doesn't matter when you have that much offense right now.
Yeah, true. And even then, other arms in the bullpen, they've been doing their things. Unfortunately, Michael King went down, but we still got some arms, and we picked up a couple. We picked up one guy from the Cubs. I can't recall his name right now, but
Robertson?
His stuff is nasty.
Yeah, Robertson's got good stuff. Yeah, that was a good pickup.
Yeah, man. Well, Josh, it was nice having you on. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, so this is awesome. I love talking baseball. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
No problem. We'd love to have you on again.
Yeah, it's great to talk baseball with like-minded individuals that love the game. That's all it's about.
Well, it's kind of fun from my point of view because I'm a lot older than you guys, and so I saw, seeing the game. I came into the game in 1987, and so I remember, I got to see the McGuires and the Cansecos, and I've seen those guys in person. By the way, they're huge. It's ridiculous. It's like you and I playing with a bunch of 5-year-olds out there on the field. They're so much bigger than everybody else. But that kind of thing, I got to live through the old, McGuire Sosa chase. I mean, you guys are old enough for that, but back in the day, I told Barry Bonds to his face, "Where can I get some steroids?" I've actually done that.
Wait.
Funny. That's funny.
I've actually done that. He hit a home run the next inning. Yeah.
That's wild, actually.
Yeah, it's a funny story, but I actually did that. And I have a picture of him with his hands on his hip looking at me as soon as I said it, and then he hit a home run the next inning.
Oh, we're gonna have to hear that story again.
Yeah. Next time I come on, that'll be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
It's been really nice, and looking forward to potentially having you on again in the future. That does it
Yeah,
for another
definitely.
episode of the All Takes No Whiffs podcast, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.